It seems the Nintendo curse is coming true. You know, that one about like releasing a really good console and then a flop like the Wii and the Wii U, because the Switch and the Switch 2, well, they had their Nintendo Direct and I'm not gonna lie, they had us in the first half. Now look, let's be honest, there's a lot of really good stuff here. There's a lot of stuff that we should celebrate and be happy about. And then there's also a lot of confusing things and overall very bad things for not just Nintendo, but for the industry, including the price of the console and the price of games, some of the things regarding updating or upgrading games for future hardware, things regarding paid for online subscriptions, and just a couple of genuine misses. And that's accompanied by some very exciting announcements and a console that I feel is just a little bit confusing. And while today I'm mostly a PC gamer, if there's one consistent console in my life, it's always been a Nintendo console. Every single generation, I've owned it. And this might be the generation that I stop. So there's a lot to get into. A lot of it is pretty negative, to be honest, and that kind of sucks, but it's where we are. So, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's really good to see you. All the usual like button, subscribe, yada yada. Let's get into it. Now, I really do want to start off highlighting some of the positives here, especially because they're gonna kind of be undone by some of the negatives. Mario Kart World looks amazing. It looks like a ton of fun. It reminds me of stuff like Crash Team Racing and Diddy Kong Racing and in some capacity to SSX3, and that makes me happy. New Donkey Kong game looks fantastic. Who doesn't miss Donkey Kong? Silksong exists still and is theoretically coming out this year. The Duskbloods, the 8-player PvPvE Bloodborne sequel thing. I think it is to Bloodborne what Night Rain is to Elden Ring in a sense. I don't know. Weird. 100% exclusive to Nintendo. The Switch 2 is more powerful than I think a lot of people expected, and the specs are not very Nintendo-like. Having the screen be 120Hz refresh rate, meaning that the performance on a lot of games is aiming to hit 120 frames per second on handheld mode, is pretty impressive, and the fact that it can hit 4K 60, no matter what trickery they might be using in there, including DLSS upscaling, is also really impressive. Nintendo and 4K is not something that I really expected. And the fact that we're getting a game like Metroid Prime 4, which has not had the best showings in my opinion, but you know, that sort of performance on that is really good. I can't believe we're gonna play a Nintendo game at 4K 60 FPS HDR. You are fucking kidding me, brother. We even got some other indie highlights like Enter the Gungeon 2, where the stream froze, but here's a clip of me losing my mind because the stream froze and I heard the words Enter the Gungeon 2.
Here's the first look at Enter the Gungeon 2. Dodge countless bullets.
Heck, even having GameCube games now being emulated on Switch, even if it's gonna be like 7 of them, because they're gonna forget to release more of them. There was overall a lot of cool stuff to see here, and in a package that kind of felt very modern for Nintendo in a very good way. The tech is more modern, the raw power of the console is better, and it's going to allow them to do crazy stuff because we know that Nintendo always squeezes out the most out of every single console because of how good they are at designing gameplay and aesthetics that don't hinge on just having a ton of raw power. So now that they have a lot more raw power, they can go absolutely crazy, and that's exciting. And then you start to dig into every little detail about everything else in the Direct and the news that we got afterwards, and you start to get really, really angry. Or at least that was my case. So yes, the big hitters here are, firstly, the console is going to release for $450 and different regional equivalents around the world, which is pretty expensive. That means it is squarely competing against other handheld PCs, basically, stuff like the Steam Deck, and very important to say that it doesn't feel like a toy anymore. The Nintendo Switch, when it released, had a price point of $300, which was a lot more of a, hey, yeah, if your 7-year-old wants one, you'll think about it, but you definitely won't think about giving your 7-year-old a $450 toy. There's a big difference in that price point, and even if it is a sign of the times and inflation doesn't mean that wages have adjusted for that, so it's still a lot of money for a lot of people. So now Nintendo seems to be sitting more towards the teens and just adults that want to play these consoles instead of positioning it as a toy, which on one hand is cool, but on the other hand means that they now have a lot of very fierce competition in both the hybrid console space and in that price point. More than ever, Nintendo was relying squarely on its exclusives this time around, because if what you like about the Switch 2 is that it is a handheld console where you can play a bunch of games, you're probably getting a better deal at this price point on a Steam Deck or on whatever Xbox comes out with. And I think it's pretty clear so far that they haven't really announced barn burners besides Donkey Kong and Mario Kart World, which for a lot of people would be enough, but wait until you hear the prices. $80 for the digital edition of Mario Kart World, or $90 for a physical edition of the game. Yeah, you can get it in a bundle for $50 extra with the console, meaning that you are saving, well, $30 because it's the digital edition. At first we thought this was going to be every game, and it turns out that it's not the case. Some games have the Nintendo Premium, so Donkey Kong Bananza will still cost $70, but we're talking about ridiculous prices and, very importantly, normalizing a new MSRP of $80. We were so afraid of GTA 6 that we forgot about Mario Kart. And we do have to pause for just a moment to talk about that $80 price tag, because there's a couple of ways of looking at this. Nintendo famously doesn't really have discounts or drop prices on their games very often, and you don't see them on sale. They are charging $70 for Breath of the Wild on Switch 2. But if this price point doesn't work out, it'd be nice if they lower their price point officially, or we could see, as we have seen with Nintendo games in the past, a lot of retailers simply taking the $10 off the top at launch. The problem is that no matter what happens, this is either a huge fumble from Nintendo or the harbinger of times to come, where everything in the near future is just going to be that much more expensive. And I don't know about the rest of the world, because I do see people trying to defend this and saying, hey, video games used to be a lot more expensive way back in the day. Sure, the times have changed, and let me just say that $80 for Mario Kart World is a lot. Some would say too much, and the sum here is me. Now, what's even worse is that this $450 console only has that price outside of Japan. The Japan exclusive system that is potentially region locked, as in geo-locked, we don't know yet, but the console that comes only in Japanese is, in its equivalent, $330, which, sure, the Japanese yen isn't in the best place right now, but it is significantly less, and we know that because they are also selling the multilingual open version of the Switch 2 in Japan for significantly more, the same price as everywhere else in the world, at least its equivalent over there. I'm sorry, Nintendo, I know that maybe this has to do with scalpers or national stuff or whatever, but you're proving right there that the tech that is in this machine, you can sell it for less, and you're choosing to sell it for more. Or are you telling me that it costs you an almost extra $150 to make the console region free? Okay, fine, but the games are good and the console is too, right? It's a significant improvement. Well, really, not that much. The specs might seem impressive, but we don't really have a teardown of it to compare it to something like a Steam Deck, and the only real hardware novelty that they're pushing, and they are pushing hard because they want people to know that this is the Switch 2. It's a different thing, guys. It's not like the Wii U, which was a completely different thing, but people thought it was an add-on to the Wii, famously, and it's one of the reasons it failed, or at least that's what Nintendo attributes some of that failure to. So you can now use the Joy-Con as mice, so that you can play drag and drive. Drag drive. I know that it's people in wheelchairs, and that kind of makes us all feel a little bit weird inside when we talk about it, but it doesn't look good. Like, I guess we have to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt because sometimes, you know, you don't know when something is going to be Splatoon and when something is going to be ARMS. But Dragon Drive looks more like ARMS. And I'm not just saying that because there's nobody using their legs in it. I'm sorry. Well, fine. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about upgrading games. Retro compatibility. Almost every single Switch game, there's a very specific list of Switch games that do not work on Switch 2, but most of them work absolutely no problem. And I love that because I continue to play Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown on my Switch 2 and don't have to worry about the existence of UB Connect. Thank you. However, compared to other consoles like the Xbox Series that does a lot of upscaling and improvements of older games just because, or the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4 technically, that have been selling upgrades for last-gen versions of games that you might own for either free for a long time in the case of Sony, and then for small prices like $10 and with added content, Nintendo is giving you some games completely for free, upgrading resolution, frame rates, who knows, but other games with a little bit of improvement are being charged for $10 to $20 on these. And to be fair, some of these I could, accept. Kirby comes with a new expansion to the game. Hey, I get all of the upgrades plus the new expansion, cool. Super Mario Party Jamboree, a game that I actually really, really like and have been playing with my friends very often in the last months. Maybe you're pushing it there just a little bit. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which now comes with, get it, this is the big addition that they're giving us on top of like the graphical and frame rate improvements, a phone app. A phone app!
That's exclusive to the Switch 2 editions of these titles. For example, it can help.
Oh, the Wii U is back.
Locations, like shrines and Koroks you haven't found yet.
Guidance activating. Proceed north.
What? Or, hey, if you sign up for a Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass, you get it for free. I don't get it for free. I get it included in my membership, okay? You're still charging me for essentially nothing. What precedent does this set for the future? Because I don't like it. Speaking of Nintendo Switch Online, in Nintendo's now very late, but at least it's being rapid, let's be honest. They're doing a good job really quickly, I guess, of reaching the same standards as Xbox Live in 2008, have added what is essentially a Discord app for Nintendo in Game Chat, which has its own dedicated button. Now, let me just say that the new Pro Controller, which is kind of a weird thing because it's not a standard controller, but it's also not like the $140 special like Xbox or PlayStation controllers, right? Does come with two new buttons on the back that are programmable. Big step forward. We need more buttons on controllers to evolve the design space. Big conversation, but whatever. So that's cool. No, the problem is that there's a brand new button on everything called the C button, which is necessary for Game Chat, which is this Discord-like service where with even the webcam that they're selling you, you can share terrible frame rates of your game with friends in a room and talk to each other while you game. No headphones necessary, even thanks to the microphone that the Switch 2 has, yada, yada, yada. It really does look just like Nintendo Discord. Nintendo Discord. And that sounds cool. That sounds pretty great. But there's a dedicated button for this thing that there is free use of Game Chat until I believe like March of 2026. But after that, you need the Nintendo Switch Online subscription to use it. And if you don't use Nintendo Switch Online, this button does nothing? There's a button that I need to subscribe to an online platform to make a button work on a Nintendo console? I know it's weird to say, right? Because like the idea of gating communication stuff behind payments is not new. Like PlayStation has done it, Xbox did it all the way back with Xbox Live Gold and all of that. And it makes sense. Nintendo has the Nintendo Switch Online system. Of course, this is going to be a premium feature, but there's just something weird about it having a button. They do their dumb little teaser the day before of like, what is this button gonna do? Well, nothing if you don't pay. And look, am I really excited for a lot of these games and the future potential of Nintendo games on this hardware. Of course. Am I really looking forward to Metroid Prime 4 and to Donkey Kong Bonanza? And does Mario Kart World look amazing? Yes. Will I eventually have to buy one of these machines exclusively to play the Duskbloods? Probably. But I really don't want to. I don't have the excitement that I had with the Nintendo Switch, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the prices and how this is positioned within the industry, how it's positioned within Nintendo and its history, is strange and awkward to me. There is a greed, like a classic video game console greed to this, that just tastes really bad. It's like when the PS2 launched and it was being sold at a loss. So, you know, you got the PS2 and you needed to then buy the really expensive memory cards. It feels like that sort of greed, of nickel and diming, of, you know, the joycons are now more expensive than ever and we did not put Hall effect joysticks in them. So get ready for some Joy-Con drift on your really expensive Joy-Cons to play on your really expensive hybrid console for your really expensive games. And make sure that you're paying for your online subscription so that the C button works. And at these price points, with this business strategy, with how they are doing a more traditional console, it's upgrading previous games from the previous generation into the new generation. It's extending the lifetime of these games and having you pay for that extension. It is more modern, more capable hardware that is going to keep up a little bit better with multi-platform releases. You just start to look at this thing and its price point, honestly, like it's competing with everyone else. And it's strange that because of a price point change, what used to be the Nintendo magic went from, of course, I will pay $300 for this weird little machine that I will probably play some indie games on as well, but really, we're here to play Nintendo games, to there is no way I am paying these prices exclusively for Nintendo Magic now that there are much better alternatives and that the market is just defining itself better. And we're almost done with the video, but here's the nerdy business demographic perspective talk that I think some people know me for. The market at the moment is changing drastically all of the time, and I'm not talking about the MSRP of games. I'm talking about who video gamers are, who consumers of video games are. There is about 4 different markets and they overlap. There are traditional console gamers, people who like to sit down at their couch to play video games. Still very popular. The largest market of them all, mobile phone gamers. Huge, absolutely massive. Hybrid console gamers, which in my experience for a long time, that wasn't ever their main platform. It was like a secondary thing, but obviously the Switch has taken off, and for a lot of people, a hybrid console is their one and only, right? But those are people who enjoy gaming on the go with something that is a bit more in-depth than mobile phones, and also want that additional benefit of being able to hook it up to their TV. And finally, people who like to sit at a desk to play video games, which is very often people who play on PC, people who have Steam accounts and might be interested in a Steam Deck. And that's where a lot of these things overlap. Mobile gamers want to also have options to play bigger games on the go. Console gamers might want to play on the go as well. And desk people also want to have different things. All of these things can coexist. But I think that in recent years, the markets that have been growing the most, especially after phones have kind of stagnated because now everybody has one and is a gamer, has been trending from what we see in sales towards the desk people, towards this idea of sitting down in your man or woman cave of gaming and doing your thing, and that's all cool. So desks and PCs have been taking off, is my point. So now it's the most prime moment for people who are in the ecosystem of a PC, Steam, Xbox on PC, be that Game Pass or the Xbox app or whatever, to be considering running whatever the new Asus Xbox hybrid handheld that has Steam and Game Pass in it, or a Steam Deck that has all of your Steam games on it as that option. And those are going to be of much higher value to anybody in that growing segment. And the reason people will want a Switch 2 will be exclusively for those Nintendo first-party games. It's not at a price point where it's just an extra device that a lot of people will look at and say, yeah, this is cool and it's a relatively low investment for what I'm going to get out of it. That's not it anymore. And because of that same issue, a lot of the other side of the market that Nintendo targeted and captured with the Nintendo Switch being casuals, being people who only game on Switch, being children, younger people who don't use their own disposable income and rely on their parents and Christmas gifts and stuff like that. That is no longer an option for them, in my opinion. They have gone way too far from that, because those people who casually pick up a Switch and have it in the living room and use it once a month, or who buy it as a present for their kids, are not going to spend $450 for the console and then have to pay $80 every time that a new game comes out. I didn't even mention the fact that some of the physical editions, clearly marked on the boxes by the way, but some of them don't come with the game on the cartridge. It's just a game key download. So it's a physical cartridge that you pop in so that it can download the content. The ones that come with the content in them are labeled, or actually backwards, but still, the fact that we're going to be paying potentially $90 for physical games where there's nothing on the physical cartridge, and that Nintendo's the one that brought us here is that wasn't on my bingo card. I am disappointed with this, and I am very fearful of what the future holds for gaming if Nintendo is taking this route. It really is just a really big surprise, and hey, early June, we're getting the Nintendo Switch 2, and we'll see what happens. And honestly, talking about me, some of the more inside baseball stuff, I was really excited for a Switch 2, and I really wanted to cover more Nintendo things. I've been playing a ton of Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I really want to do a nice long video on that game because I think it's amazing. But now I don't think I'm buying a Switch 2 on release, because that's a ridiculous price. And I think a lot of people feel the same. So, yeah, Nintendo's, I don't know, I guess they've lost the plot. In any case, I've been Mug, and if you enjoyed this analysis, this breakdown of everything that's happening with Nintendo, and you want more coverage of the world of video games and everything about them, then hey, hit that subscribe button. It's much appreciated. A very special thanks to the patrons and members up on the wall. They support everything I do directly, and I am incredibly grateful for their support. Thank you. As always, go out there, enjoy some really good video games if you can, and I will see you again very soon.